YouTube, what's up, what's happening? Here I am bringing you another video. Now, I was out cleaning my garage today. Yes, I'm out here in the garage. Hear the cars whiz by. Great times. Anyway, I was out here cleaning today and I remembered one of the questions that gets asked a lot in a lot of my videos, and that's, what kind of compressor do you use? What kind of compressor should I buy? What kind of compressor would you recommend? You know, compressors, you know, in general is the question. And I just wanted to bring up, you know, a few points that you should probably take into consideration when you're trying to buy or look for a compressor. There are several things that I would recommend. I would always recommend getting a compressor with a tank. You see this big hefty thing at the bottom here? This is a tank. It holds the air. This is the pump right here. This pumps the air into the tank, and the tank builds up a mass amount of pressure inside of it, so when you use air, it comes out of the tank and not directly from the pump. This helps remove stuttering or spittering in the line, in your air pressure, you know, so you get a smooth, constant stream of air, and you know, it just helps the longevity of the pump. The pump doesn't have to work so hard, you know, it just fills up the tank. Then when you use the air out of the tank, it refills it. It doesn't have to constantly be on. It'll shut on and off by itself. That's always good. You want your product to last. That being said, a lot of the little oilless compressors that are out, you know, little airbrush, you know, that you see at Hobby Lobby or whatever, which I might add are extremely overpriced. You know, some of them ranging in the few hundreds. They just don't last very long and they don't work very good. They don't do either thing very well. So I would not recommend any of those small little case box compressors that you see to anybody. I've gone through those, and unless you're going to specifically work with only low pressure situations, and I mean like 5 to 10 psi maximum, those little compressors will not work, will not do you any good. You'll be, at the end of the day, you'll be stuck with a big heavy paperweight because it will burn out if you use it too constantly, you know. So yeah, I would always recommend get one with a tank. Now going from there, how big of a tank you should get. Now this depends on how much you plan to airbrush. Are you planning to airbrush for hours at a time, or do you only plan to airbrush for a few minutes? You know, is this only your like little art hobby, you know, where you're gonna airbrush for maybe an hour, 2 hours max? You know, because then you can get a smaller one. You don't have to get such a big tank. You know, you can get a small tank with this, you know, a smaller gauge of pressure here, and you'll be just fine with that. Yeah, as you can see, this is a 2 horsepower, 8-gallon compressor. It holds up to 125 psi max. This is probably what I would recommend for most people, is a 2 horsepower, 6 to 8 gallon compressor, or 10 gallon if you can. And even if you don't plan to airbrush that much, you'll know where your money went, and when you're still using it a few years down the line, you'll be grateful. You'll be thankful that you didn't have to buy one every year or every few months because it burnt out. Or, you know, you could also use it for other stuff. You know, a compressor like this comes in handy for if you have flat tires, stuff like that. You know, you'll be able to use this compressor to inflate all that stuff. You know, that being said, these are just more versatile for a lot of things. If you do plan to airbrush bigger things, like say motorcycles or cars or stuff like that, and you do use a bigger airbrush, you know, a handheld sprayer, so you're gonna need something with a really big tank. Now, 10 gallons seems big to some of you, but really you're gonna need something 30 to 40 gallons big. It requires a lot of air pressure, and you really want your pump to not work too hard to produce a lot of that air pressure. You want your air pump to fill up the tank, and you want it to be taking the air pressure out the tank. You don't want to be, you know, working the pump and taking pressure directly off the pump. You will burn out pumps quite easily like that. You know, that being said, I like the oil-cooled pumps. They just seem to last longer, even though motor is electric on this. These just seem to work really good. They last longer. I don't know what it is, the lubrication or whatever. I do go through those oilless ones. If I buy one within 6 months to a year, it is burnt out and I can't use it no more. It is like I have to take it to have repaired, which in most cases is not very cheap, and it's in most cases I just end up buying a new one because it's just a better deal. And you know, they usually come with a warranty or something. So that being said, you know, I hope you guys, oh, actually I almost forgot one thing there. There's a few things I want to show you. You also want to take into consideration when buying one is right here, if I could just tilt this down for you. We have the pressure gauges. Now this is the pressure gauge for the tank, the complete tank right here, and this is the pressure gauge for the line. This has its own regulator which you could turn up or down, and you could regulate how much pressure is going out to your airbrush through here. So these is always really good to have, so you can control how much pressure you have. Most compressors come with one nowadays, but you might want to check that it has one that you know works good, or that you're happy with, you know. So that's one thing to take into very good consideration. So that's it. That's all I got for you guys in this video. If you have any other questions, any other videos you'd like to see, I strongly suggest you leave the comments down below, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Later.